Astyanax was released in the arcade in 1989, and a year later it was ported to the NES, which is the version I'll be covering here. You play as the title character, a high school freshman who is summoned to a parallel universe to save the princess from a demon. Pretty run-of-the-mill stuff, but the cutscenes you get between stages are pretty impressive for the time, as cheesy as they are. At first glance, you really have to suspend your disbelief. I mean, why the hell would you call upon a 14-year-old with no combat experience to take down a seemingly unstoppable monster to save your whole world? Even Astyanax himself is like, what the fuck? But as the story progresses, a little bit of sense is made out of this, and you don't find yourself rolling your eyes as hard. The gameplay is very straightforward. Side-scrolling platformer. Blast shit with your axe and collect power-ups. You do get special attacks called spells, but a limited amount of spell power, which is indicated at the bottom of the screen under SP. Launching the spell attacks is done by pressing B and holding up. It's a little unnatural. I mean, why not have select do the trick here since it does fuck all otherwise? But it's not the end of the world. These spells are quite impressive, and I tend to save them up for the bosses, which can wipe out some of them right away. Pausing the game will allow you to shift between spells. One of them freezes enemies, one will send fireballs, and the other destroys everything on screen. The controls are okay, but they're a little bit stiff, and it doesn't help that your sprite takes up about a third of the playing surface, and you move pretty slow. The timing of your attacks is something that you need to get used to as well. Your hit window is pretty narrow, and it doesn't help that enemies constantly respawn if you don't advance the screen in advance of killing them. You can thankfully pick up upgrades for your weapon as you go, but that doesn't help your range of attack all that much. Picking up these axe icons will upgrade you to a spear and then a sword. These don't increase your range at all, but each is more powerful than the last. But the more powerful weapon you have, the more spell points each of your spells will cost, which is pretty bullshit if you ask me. What is this, a luxury tax? The more powerful your default weapon is, the less you're gonna feel the need to use the damn spell in the first place. It shouldn't cost you more. Other power-ups include a claw that increases your striking power, which is indicated at the bottom of the screen as well. This meter builds up quickly after each strike, so you can once again attack with full power fairly quickly, but rapid attacks will be less lethal due to your lack of charge. It's kind of like overheating your engine. Red potions increase your health by 3 hit points, and blue potions max out your health. Wings will allow you to swing your melee weapon faster. Thank you very much, this should be the speed of your weapon at all times. An Astyanax icon gives you an extra life, and the fairy, who will be your combat buddy throughout the game's story, restores your spell power. Despite the flawed controls, the game is definitely more than playable. It does have a lack of variety in terms of enemies, though. A lot of them are pretty unimaginative in terms of attack patterns, and some stages don't feature too many different enemies at all, including a couple that have a gauntlet of the same piece of shit puddle hazard all throughout the stage. But that being said, it's still a nice little platformer. The story is campy fun, and the soundtrack has some good melodies despite some mediocre production. So before even starting the game, you get a cutscene where Astyanax has this recurring dream about a hot chick with purple hair calling for him. He then introduces himself in narrative form to the audience, as a high school freshman on his way to school, and suddenly sees an ominous flashing in the sky. After passing the title screen, the cutscene picks up, so why they didn't just string these two segments together from this spot, I don't know. I guess they wanted to have a cold open. So Astyanax encounters a fairy humorously named Cutie, who informs him that she summoned him to the world of Remlia to save the girl in his dreams, Princess Rosebud, who was captured by Blackhorn, an evil wizard trying to conjure up her powers and rule Remlia. According to Cutie, Astyanax is the chosen one, despite being a 16-year-old high school freshman. What, did he stay back a year or two? Apparently, he possesses a miracle power within him, and Princess Rosebud is the only one who can send him back. So essentially, Cutie is holding Astyanax hostage and forcing him to fight to save their world. She at least gives him an axe, and the mission begins. The first enemy you'll encounter is this blue brain blob that floats across the screen. Swipe at them if they're in the way, otherwise don't worry about them. These skeletons will leap towards you. Swipe at them as they get close to you. Once you've got the timing down, you'll be able to mow them down easily. Then you've got these weird-ass eye monsters that float back and forth and drop turds. Jump and strike them whenever they get within striking distance. You'll want to wait around to kill off some of these cretins, because if you press on, they'll stick around and the monsters ahead will also show up and clutter up the screen and become a nuisance. Get up close to the edge of this platform and crouch to avoid the flames that shoot out of this Venus flytrap type thing as you swipe at it. Soon after is a mini-boss, a roly-poly ball that will bounce around the room, or just move slightly depending on what it feels like doing at the time. Time your attacks with when it is about to make contact with you, and then as the ball unravels, revealing its true form, just swipe continuously as it just stands there like a dope. Before the battle begins, there'll be a container with a health potion inside. Open it up at the beginning of the battle, but don't take it unless you're about to die. After you win the battle, you'll automatically walk over and pick it up on your way off screen, but only if you open up the container first, otherwise you're shit out of luck. Keep this in mind with other battles throughout the game. After that is the real boss, this creepy ass gremlin demon that'll detach its head and sail around the room in a circular pattern. Jump and slice the head, avoid it as it circles, and after a few shots, the demon is destroyed, and the creature riding it will play a game of deadly ring toss with you. Try to position yourself between the rings and get your shots in when you get close, or just use a special attack to wipe him out. It's usually a good idea to save that stuff for these boss fights, but I'll still give the strategy out for your melee attacks in case you run out. You'll then get a cutscene where Blackhorn and his sidekick discover that you're on his trail, and they prepare themselves for your attack. First portion of Stage 2 introduces this piranha plantish creature that spits out orbs that circle around. Much like the fly traps from Stage 1, you'll want to get close, crouch, and rapidly attack. With this one here, you're going to want to wait for it to spit 3 series of orbs, because there'll be a slight gap between its attacks, and you can go in for the kill without having to worry about getting knocked off the edge. The skeletons this time will also attack with a projectile and block with their sword. Again, crouching is the best means of attack here, and as long as you swing at the right time as it approaches, and the projectiles will sail right over your head. The mini-boss is this green glob monster that slithers across the ground and then morphs upward. Takes a few swings, and then globs back down. Rinse, wash, repeat. Crouch, swing wildly, then back up to give yourself some space, and repeat the process. If you end up cornered, leap over it when it's still just a glob, and repeat from the other side. Once it's destroyed, it's on to segment 2 of Stage 2. This is one of those one-dimensional stages I mentioned earlier where it's the same enemy all throughout, with nothing of note otherwise. Similar to the previous mini-boss, the enemy in question is this glob on the ground that pops up and fires a spear. The spear is at mid-level, so even if you're parallel to it, you can still avoid it by crouching. But since you're scaling up the platforms throughout the entire stage, you're not going to be in any danger as long as you're relatively careful. Just hop up the rocks, stay low, and kill. Easy peasy. A gargoyle creature is the mini-boss. It'll fly around and spit out projectiles that circle similar to the piranha plant creature. Its flight pattern is somewhat erratic, and the projectiles are tricky to navigate between, but rapid jumping attacks are the way to go to wipe him out with minimal damage to yourself. After that is the main boss, a giant Medusa-headed slug. He'll attack with cat-like hand scratches with its arms, and fire snakes out of its head that crawl back to him. His weakness is the jewel down at his crotch area. So you have to crouch to avoid the cat scratches, but you have to get back up to leap over the snakes. In between attacks, he'll teleport to the other side and repeat the same attack pattern from here. The trick is to crouch just out of reach of the scratch attack, and you can still reach the jewel. Just be ready to jump over the snakes. No need to worry about getting extra hits in. Patience is a virtue. You can also get a couple shots as he first slithers onto the screen. You just gotta do it in stick and move fashion. Use these techniques to wipe him out, and you'll get a brief cutscene of Astyanax and Cutie camping out, and Cutie takes notice of your homesickness. The First portion of Stage 3 starts off with a slew of enemies you've met already. Brain blobs, skeletons, fly traps, and eyeball squid. A lot of narrow platforms with pits in between. Make sure you're careful with your jumping, and continue to follow the rule of not rushing through to avoid getting many enemies on screen at one time. One part in particular to make note is this platform with the fly trap close to the edge. You can stop yourself as soon as you land and crouch while attacking to avoid getting brushed back into the pit behind you, but it's even easier to just get on the edge of this platform and swipe at him from a distance. No fuss, no muss, as long as you have the sword. Soon after is the mini-boss, this bull-man hybrid that walks slowly, slashes at short distance, summons an electrical storm with its horns, and throws a projectile every once in a while. It's practically impossible to completely evade the storm attack. I mean, you can knock the bolts away, but it's easier said than done. So it's best to attack rapidly and wipe him out as quickly as possible to avoid the inevitable shitstorm sequence. Now he won't attack while he's being hit, so another reason to keep the onslaught going. Just adjust your position so you don't get too close and get swiped. That'll be his attack of choice when you're up in his face. After taking him out, you'll move on to Segment 2, which is essentially a Benjamin Button version of Stage 2, Segment 2. This time you're traveling downward and facing off against the glob pools, but you also have these baby dragons that just fly in your face. Swipe them away. At this spot, jump low to get across and get the health potion. If you jump too high, you'll clip the ceiling and drop down, where you'll meet the mini-boss, this fruit loop that shuffles across the floor and takes a swing as it moves, and sometimes throws a rock in an arc pattern. Stay close, crouch, and attack rapidly. You want to be close enough to hit him and avoid the rock, but far enough away to avoid the swings. After taking him out, you're on to the main boss, this monstrosity that fires bouncing spiked balls and wanders back and forth. Attack the pink face in the middle. It'll turn to another form after enough hits, and keep your eye on the spiked balls. It's his only attack at this point, so get out of the way once they appear. The creature will abandon the shell and float around slowly, tossing bubbles that roll back and forth near the creature. Cut them down and jump to swipe him. After taking him out, you'll get a cutscene where Blackhorn seems a bit concerned that you're getting closer, but Thorndog assures him that they've got everything under control, including strengthening the spell that's overtaken Princess Rosebud so she can't communicate with Cutie. And Blackhorn tells Rosebud he will soon transfer her power to himself and take over the world. What is he waiting for? Early on in the first portion of Stage 4, you'll meet these big green fish creatures that pop up out of the water and try to stab you. Attack rapidly and back off as it attempts the stabby. Then you've got these fish that fly about the screen. Wait for them to line up with you and strike. Boy, these fly traps love to settle on the edge of platforms, knowing you have limited long-range attacks. Land directly in front of him, crouch, and attack quickly so you don't get knocked into the pit. After battling more familiar foes throughout, you'll encounter the mini-boss, yet another familiar foe, one of those skeletons. Only difference here is it attacks a little more frequently than before, and it's gold. Crouch, and swing rapidly to thwart off the attacks as well as lay your own attacks in. Once you take them out, it's on to Segment 2. More familiar faces here. Skeletons, piranha plants, and floating brain blobs. One new creature is this butterfly that is nothing more than one of those brain blobs with a different sprite. It just floats about in the same pattern basically. Definitely watch your step when facing off with the piranha plants. They love to lay by the edge and fuck your shit up when you get close. Attack from a well-spotted distance, or if there's room, you can slip directly in front of them before wiping them out. Wait for their attacks to subside before making your move though. The mini-boss is this druid that'll teleport from one spot to another and unleash a deadly projectile, then teleport again. Attack when it first teleports into view, keep a safe distance to avoid the arms, and back away to avoid the projectile. And maybe you can rush back in to get a shot or two in before he re-teleports. After taking him out, it's on to the main boss. I guess it's a tree monster of some kind. It'll flick out 2 grenades that'll land and unleash a stream of weird green shit. You can smack it out of the way and get to your real target, the head of this beast. Just watch out for the green shit it spits back at you. Button mashing is your friend here. Once you take him out, you'll get a cutscene where you and Cutie reach Blackhorn's castle, or at least it's within sight. The first segment of Stage 5 pits you against more of the big fish from Stage 4. Wait for them to pop up and unleash. Just keep your eye on the flying fish nearby. Stop short of the Venus flytrap and swipe at him from a distance, similar to earlier. When passing the water pits, watch out for the fish as they suddenly pop out of the water. Normally you can see them swimming by. The mini-boss at the end starts off with a lion and an eagle. The lion runs back and forth across the screen, and the eagle flies overhead, descending down to attack you when it passes by. Your best bet is to focus on just one of them. I prefer the lion because it's way more predictable. Swipe at it rapidly and jump over it to give it some shots from behind, and crouch down to minimize the contact from the eagle. It won't take too many hits for them to merge into a griffin. It won't fire any projectiles, it just swoops down at you. Take some swings and back off a bit to give it room to pass by, unless you have a lot of health, in which case you can just button mash your way to killing it off. After taking it out, it's on to segment 2, which is another one of these redundant ascend the mountain stages with nothing but these glob guys. Actually, I lied. They throw in one of those piranha plants just so I can't call it exclusively globs. Once you reach the top, you'll meet the boss. The same douche nozzle from Stage 3. It might just be me, but I think he throws rocks a little more often this time. Either way, follow the same strategy as last time, and you'll take him out, and you'll get a cutscene where you reach the castle, and Cutie is able to telepathically communicate with Princess Rosebud. She manages to tell you to follow the signs, but Thorndog's spell kicks in, and you lose communication with her. So now it's on to following the signs in Stage 6. The first segment of Stage 6 is a lot like Stage 6 in Monster Party. Lots of doors you have to enter in a specific order. Actually, it more resembles Mickey Mousecapade's Woods stage, where entering the wrong door will backtrack you. And the rooms aren't as redundant as Monster Party's either. The walls are colored differently every other room, so you should be able to keep track of where you are, for the most part. Now, Rosebud did say to follow the signs, so that tells you that there's some kind of recurring indication of which door is the one to pass through. And for the most part, it's true. You're almost always going to go into the room where a skeleton is guarding. Except for the first room, which is fucking stupid because there's nothing in the room but the door. So the first thing I did when I played this game was look for clues as to what the signs are for entering these doors. First room, there's only one door. Just a practice run, I guess, to get you acclimated to the delay in controls when entering a door. Nothing but floating brain blobs in here until you get to the end where the skeleton is, and go through the last door against the wall. Next up, go through the second door, not counting the one you came out of, right where the skeleton pops out. Then take the second door, kill the piranha plant on your way to killing the skeleton by the door before entering. Next room, walk all the way to the wall, killing the eyeball ghosts and Venus flytraps on your way, killing the skeleton before entering the door. Then go through the second door, killing the piranha plant and skeleton right before the door. And then use the last door, all eyeball ghosts down this hallway. Up ahead is a mini-boss against a mummy with an axe. Break the canister to reveal the health potion, so you'll walk over it on your way back from winning the fight. He'll teleport from one side to the other and take a few swings with the axe, then teleport again. Get close to him and crouch and attack, but stay at arm's length so he can't hit you with his axe. When he teleports, adjust your position, line yourself up, and swipe at him. Keep it up until he's finished, and you'll get a cutscene where you'll meet up with Thorndog. You talk shit back and forth with him for a bit, and the battle commences. He has 2 attacks. He'll launch these purple orbs that float from the ceiling to the floor, and he'll extend his hand and unleash an electrical current. This is hard to dodge, and it usually causes you to pick your poison between the laser and the orbs. Immediately slice the hand off and attack the flashing jewel on his chest, and retreat to evading the orbs. The hand grows back, so you better get up there and slice it off again before he unleashes the laser. Keep this up until he's done for, and you'll get a cutscene where Thorndog reveals that killing him causes you to be magically bound to him, and that you have to die with him. Cutie explains that she can break the seal Thorndog has over you by sacrificing her own life. Despite your pleas, she goes through with it, which pisses you off, and you're now on a vengeance mission as well as a rescue mission. The second segment of Stage 6 is a gauntlet of 5 mini-bosses you face throughout the game. The roly-poly double-headed alien, the slithery glob monster, the electric bull, this rock-throwing doofus, and the lion-eagle to griffin hybrid. After taking all of them out, you'll find a health potion and flame power-up before meeting up with Blackhorn. Despite the fact that he's only been in combat for all of a half hour, Astyanax is a cocky little bastard now, calling out a powerful ancient overlord. He demands Blackhorn release the princess, which he of course refuses, and promises him death and a lonely, tedious afterlife wandering around the world he's about to conquer. That's cold as ice. The battle begins. He'll summon some electrical current and swing a sword. Nothing really all that threatening, and he doesn't take too many hits. Just crouch, swing, and adjust your position. After taking him out, his true form of a dragon is revealed. He'll spit out balls of fire, 1 at a time, followed by 2 at a time unless you get a hit in. His only weakness is the flashing gem on his chest. Keep a good distance to lure the fire attack as far left as possible, leading it to land a few feet from the edge of the screen. As soon as it lands, jump over it and quickly run up to take a swipe at the gem. Then quickly make your way back and leap over the flame. It will always follow you after a couple seconds of laying on the floor. After getting enough shots in, it'll change colors, from silver to gold and then to red. When he's red, he'll summon some kind of spell or some shit that will freeze you. You won't be able to move until right when he unleashes the flame spit, and he'll always fire 2 shots this time around. Don't stay too close to him so you won't get hit by him in your frozen state, and always be ready to get the hell away from his flame attack. After dealing enough damage, you'll take him out and get a cutscene where Princess Rosebud thanks you for saving her, but their princess is in another castle. Actually, she just invites you to Remlia to celebrate, but you politely decline, citing your worrying parents. Rosebud bids farewell, and suddenly you're back on Earth, wondering if this was all a dream. You walk by some chick who you recognize as Cutie, and after an embrace, Rosebud appears via interworld FaceTime and informs Cutie that she was awarded life on Earth due to her brave sacrifice. And that's the fucking end. Are you shitting me? So Rosebud has always had this power to resurrect, but neither Cutie nor Rosebud make any mention of this throughout your whole time in the other dimension? What a crock of shit. I mean, I know it's sad and all that Cutie had to kick the bucket, but the meaning of her sacrifice just goes to shit if she ends up alive at the end of the day anyway. And that's where it all ends, as there were no sequels, remakes, reboots, or revisits of any kind in this series from here. And that wraps up this edition of Aqualung's Game Reviews. See you next time.